Hello, and welcome aboard Air Canada. Every year, I gather the smartest people and the best ideas for 3 days of stimulation and inspiration called the Ideacity Conference. It's Canada's most eclectic, most unusual meeting of the minds. Now, what makes Ideacity different is that almost all other conferences are devoted to a single topic, typically what you do for a living. Ideacity is quite deliberately about everything else. Astronomy, cosmology, the frontiers of science, the latest in medicine, arts, architecture, acrobatics, the environment, literary figures, photographers, and even rock stars. So while your head is in the clouds, why not open your mind to some of our great talks from past meetings, each one no more than 20 minutes, I promise. Consider Ideacity a quick vacation for your brain, and check out ideacityonline.com if you'd like to attend in person one of these days. It'd be nice to see you there.
In this episode of Ideacity.
And figuring out the future is really kind of listening to your, third eye, second heart, your eyes, what you're feeling, what your instincts are telling you.
Ideacity, the smartest people, the biggest ideas.
So every year, the world's most famous trend spotter with the absolutely most perfect, unforgettable name for the job releases a list of predictions about culture and societal trends for the upcoming year. She's a scout of the new world, and we're lucky to have her here with news from the front. This is Faith Popcorn.
You're doing very well, and you'll continue to do so.
Thank you. Is that your prediction?
That's my prediction. He's fantastic, isn't he? You're great, really great. I'm Faith Popcorn, and you're not. No, Chevy Chase, I stole that from him. Anyway, I was thinking what I should do today, besides tell you what's going to happen. And I thought it would be really great if I could show you how to do it. You know, it's that fishing pole fish thing. And I think that that is what I'm supposed to be doing here on this planet, or the next planet, last planet. So that's what I'm going to do. And if you have questions after this, write to me at fpopcorn@faithpopcorn.com. Anything. I love to hear from you. So that's part of how I figure out the future. I ask you what you think. So you're noticing, of course, that consumers have a lot of access to information, right? They're becoming savvier. When does the future start? Now. When is the future? The future starting? When is the future starting? The future starts and right. So when people think it's going to be a long way away, remember that it starts right now. So I'm going to lay it out for you, and I'm hoping that when I lay it out for you, not only will you be able to predict it, but when you go outside, you're going to be able to see it, because you'll see things differently. So this consumer, customer, person, they're getting, you notice yourself getting a lot more demanding, like when you don't get what you want at a counter, a grocery store, on the internet, you get really angry. Anybody get angry lately? It's just me. They know what they want. They know how to get it. And in today's marketplaces, they are first to the future. They're before the maker. They're telling the maker how to make things. They're absolutely first there. And really, to understand the culture and to understand the consumer, you really have to get there a moment before they do. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. So we've been predicting the future since 1974. It's probably going to be on my gravestone, but in 1981, I said people are going to start to be cocooning. She said people would be, here she cocoons, it will say on my gravestone. So, and people thought, oh yeah, I called that right, said that the new Coke wouldn't be good, said four-wheel drives, are gonna get hot, said, let's see, what else did I say? we said bottled water. You know, the planet was like getting thirsty. You know, people were getting thirsty. They would want bottled water. Now we're saying bottled water, really, it should go away. We said that the cigarette police were just a minute before the fat police and the sugar police. How did we know all that? I mean, this can't be all accidents. So one of the things is about really trusting what you're feeling, what you're seeing, what you're tasting, what you're listening to. We say this to chairmen and they go, feeling? That just makes, intuition? Listening? You know? So we're saying in this place, intuition meets observation. And you will really be able to absorb knowledge without having to learn it.
Great ideas are meant to be shared. Join the discussion on Facebook. Idea City, the smartest people, the biggest ideas.
And figuring out the future is really kind of listening to your, I don't know, third eye, second heart, your eyes, what you're feeling, what your instincts are telling you, and reading. We're reading about, I don't know, 4,000 publications a month, 20 languages. And it's interesting because that's how we start to figure out the themes. So you know how you say to yourself, gee, you know, I kind of knew that, or I kind of thought that, or I just read something like that. That's theming, that's pattern making. So you're looking really for patterns. And we also have a talent bank, and I welcome any of you into it. Just write to us and tell us what you're passionately interested in. And you're gonna hear from Malika Chopra tomorrow. Deepak's in our talent bank, she's in our talent bank. And to be in our talent bank, you have to be absolutely, insanely, and wildly passionate about something. That's all it takes. Because when we're working on something or thinking about something, we ask you, you know, what do you think about this? What are you thinking? What in your venue, like the astronomers, what they're noticing about, you know, the planets, looking up, looking out, that's what we're interested in. So we have trend spotters really all over the world, and they're writing to us and they're telling us little things, like there's a store in a I'm sure you're fascinated with this. There's a store in a Japanese subway station, and they sell all kinds of different stuff, T-shirts and candy. And when they run out of something, do you know what? They don't order it again. So people get kind of crazy. They get desperate. They go to the store and they like grab, give me 2, give me 3. And that's called the short line. And actually, big manufacturers haven't figured this out yet. They don't know how to do that. People want what's going to run out. And unfortunately, and you're seeing that, you know, you're seeing that on the planet right now, what's going to run out. They want what's going to run out. So that's what we learned in a subway station in Tokyo. So this is our trend bank. It's on our website. It really says, you know, these trends really predict what's going to happen. So all you do is, like, look at these trends. You know what our mission is? Lifting ourselves and others into their best future. So we publish this, we show it to you, we give it to you, and what you need to do, your work is to say, what does this mean to me, my life, my business? How is cocooning affecting me, my life? What about icon toppling? The fact that big structures, big companies, big things we don't believe in anymore are falling. Vigilante consumer, that anger. Evolution, that men and women, are different. And women's brains are completely different. Completely. I mean, thank goodness Harvard did a study on that. Now people believe it. So we're looking at 95% accuracy in this trend bank, and you don't have to believe me. I mean, they've been tracking us for 4 decades now to say, you know, oh, she called that, was that, she called that, was that right? So what I'm saying is that once you understand where it's going, it's really pretty easy to figure out, like, what's coming. And the way to figure out the future is not to say, oh, you know, look at the past repeats itself. It does not repeat itself. It's like pulling out your old tie, you put it on, but it doesn't look quite right, does it? Wide ties are back, but not exactly the same way as your old tie. So you have to go buy a new wide tie. That's like about the future. You can't, like, look to the past. You have to look out to the future and look back and figure out when the stuff is going to happen. And you can figure out the far future, or if you can't, read The Real Futurist, Margaret Atwood. She figured it out When I read those books, I get chilled. I go, absolutely right, absolutely right. The brain chips are coming. Now, you know, we've been talking about brain chips for a very long time. Why learn a language when you could put the chip in and know it, right? End of worrying, math fear, gone, chip, know it. So those chips will be here. They're working on them right now. And you will really be able to absorb knowledge without having to learn it. And yes, the fat pill is coming. They're working on it. In the past, you were what you owned. Now you are what you share.
Get the latest Idealist news, presenter information, and watch streaming video at www.ideacityonline.com. Idea City, the smartest people, the biggest ideas.
So we talk a lot about the future, and I want to just share with you, and I know you've been seeing it, the future of media. What's the future of media? There's a real transitioning right now. Don't you feel the planet is kind of like, isn't everything like transitioning? Not only happening fast like warp speed, but kind of transitioning. You kind of feel that things are changing. So we become real social media junkies. It's like we're hooked. And we're able to, like, you're looking at your BlackBerry, you're Twittering, you're tweeting, you're beeping, it's just like this. And some people that say, you know, I'm not going to do that, they're going to be the ones that didn't do it, and they're gone, they're in the dust, and the ones that, it's getting harder and harder and harder to ride that horse. And our whole bios and who we are created on our Facebook. And even now, people, you know, when they interview you, they look on your Facebook, by the way. It's a new HR thing. You know, YouTube, boom. 4 million people watching, I don't know, a baby sing karaoke. I mean, that's fascinating, right? So, in the past, you were what you owned. Now you are what you share. Now you are what you share. So your reputation, your personal reputation, is being created on your website, on your Twitter, through your Facebook. So this is past think. Present think, you know, placing your products, you know, in a movie, you know, trying to, like, you know, kind of place your products there. Future think is moving from impressions. You know how they measure commercials, how many impressions, to connections. How many connections? How many, you know, they call them like Twitter sluts. How many people are following you? Can you imagine if those people are really following you, how nervous you'd be? I mean, those people are following you. Twitter sluts just say, sure, come on, I'm one of them. You know, sure, come, because I like, you know, they ask me stuff, but then I can ask them stuff. That's good. So the consumer is truly in control. You're in control. You get to write Levi's and go, I don't like the jeans, I want it this way. And guess what? Everybody is having, in the product world, to start to listen. They're starting to listen because they realize that you can walk away. They're starting to give people product, service the way they want it because they realize that you can walk away. The culture, that's you, is starting to be in control. So your brand isn't what you say it is. Your brand is what Google says it is. Google's the new Harvard, whatever Google says. You know, they used to say whatever Jesus said. It's now whatever Google said. So you want to know what somebody's thinking or whether you should like them? What do? First thing, you Google them. You go to a party, you get the guest list, you Google it. So what's the new media? See, I'm not the only one that does that. Culture is the new media. So if you want to get something out there, you have to weave it into the culture. And culture is now not about museum going or theater or concerts. It's what we feel, what we live, what we love, what we breathe. That's the living vibrations of a culture. So the new future of marketing is really going in culture, weaving a brand or a product deep into the culture. You need to meet it in the culture because you will not be watching. It's already happened. You know, that's the past. You will not be buying stuff from television commercials. You're buying stuff from how you're seeing it in the culture. So good, save your money. So you have to weave the DNA of a brand into the DNA of the culture, like deep into the culture. Have your consumer meet it in the culture. Everything's happening in the cultural landscape. And the cultural landscape, and this is what makes people crazy, is evolving. It's constantly changing. So I'm going to give you a couple of trends that I believe really define the culture and see if you're seeing it. I mentioned this one, icon toppling. We don't believe in anything big anymore. We don't believe in the FBI. We don't believe in the government. We don't believe in the president. We don't believe in the church. We don't believe in anything. Tiger is a cheetah. That was a headline in the Post, my favorite publication. So beyond petroleum, I want to tell you a little thing about petroleum. The Hopi Indians said they had 10 tenets. I believe the 7th tenet was, the waters will turn black. So this is very, very interesting, because this is a crime really against nature. Okay, how do many people feel that this is a crime, this spill? But you know how many spills there have been? Like lots and lots of spills. So I'm wondering, and I think, you know, with this anger, the icon toppling, whether if a chairman or a head of a company knew that they would get the death penalty or go to jail for life for a crime against nature, maybe they would have done a little bit more testing. Maybe that would have happened. Death penalty, and I'm not kidding. Don't tell my clients I said that. What am I doing? We want our dollars to support not the product, but society.
Get the latest Ideacity news instantly. Follow us on Twitter. Ideacity, the smartest people, the biggest ideas.
Vigilante consumer, consumers furious, furious. We're really reframing our power relationship with companies. We're saying we don't want it, we will not have it this way. We're buying house brands. We're not buying like brands because we don't see the advantages. We want our dollars to support not the product, but society. So the consumer really becomes a citizen that can vote. And this trend, my favorite, SOS, Save Our Society. This has been in our trend bank for about 14 years. So Save Our Society says that corporate goodness from niceness to necessity. We are forcing them to be good. We are telling them they have to behave. We will not buy if they don't behave. We need them to support our society, not just offer us empty products. That's what we're looking for. So we're really, I want to say that brands are not just offering a fundamental service, but we want them to save our society. We want them to provide. We call them brand days. And you see that the Walmarts, the Campbells of the world, the Microsofts, they're supporting schools, they're supporting towns, and we're seeing that they really realize that they have to come out and give back, because the ethics and the environment and the education, this little triangle, is kind of going into like a black hole. And we're saying if the government won't do it, then let the companies do it. You know, somebody has to do it. And we're demanding that. So if culture is the new media, you need in your company, if you have a company, a chief cultural officer. You have to have a chief culture. We have a chief cultural officer. An officer, actually our whole company studies the culture. And if goodness is the new culture, who is your chief consciousness officer? I think we're the only company that has actually a person that's the chief consciousness officer. And what she does is say, are you sure that that's right advice? Are you sure you should be working for this company? Have you asked this company to change their values and their ways before you start to promote their products? She keeps us conscious. So I'm really here to say, how will you evolve? How will you save? How will you be? How will you see your best future? And I'm wishing you that, your best future. Thank you very much for being with me. Thank you. Ideacity is true to its name. It really is bringing ideas to people in so many different ways, so many different disciplines, and so free. Something about Moses is very Moses-like. He's very lovely. He's got a very lovely, presence and being. And there's something new about him. And I think he should be actually a global hero.
In this episode of Idea City,
people don't die in hurricanes because we forecast them. And you tell people to board up their homes and pack up their stuff and leave and then come back and repair. If we hadn't had a government in denial in 2007 and 2008 about the recession, people could have boarded up their portfolios and their homes and their jobs, and they could have realized to save more. They could have realized a big storm was coming.
Idea City, the smartest people, the biggest ideas.
With increasing frequency these days, I'm asked whatever happened to the old city TV. And I say, it's on CNN. So we've got JD, and we've got Ali Velshi, and we've got a number of old graduates of city TV. So I was briefly Ali Velshi's employer. Not the first guy to put him on television, but really I think we focused you in the business portfolio for the first time. You can tell a comer when you see him. The guy always had deals going on the side. Come up here, Ali. Nice to have you here.
You know, it was 10 years ago, actually, when this started. I was working with Moses. I was working at City TV and CP24, and it was my first anchoring job, and it was my first job in business news. And, you know, you meet people you see people on TV, and you think there's some people like ducks to water for this stuff. Like, they're just explosive and exciting and fun and engaging. And then you see other people, and you wonder your entire career, how did they do that? Who were they sleeping with, or who's their, you know, who's their daddy kind of thing? I definitely fell into the latter category. I was not only was I not a natural, I was terrible. I'm not kidding. And a few weeks ago, a Toronto Star reporter came to New York to do a profile on me, and I was telling her this. I said I was really, really, really awful. And she said, look, you know, you don't need to be modest and all this kind of stuff. I said, no, I was terrible. So I said, talk to somebody I worked with. And I gave her some names, and she ended up talking to Tom Clark from CTV, who was one of my mentors. And Tom put it this way. I think the reporter was fascinated that someone actually said it. He said, Ali would come into a room and he'd have all this energy, and then the minute that little red light would go on, it would just a fast leak. It would just be gone. I was remarkably flat on TV, like the prairies. It was unbelievable. So when I left City, Moses actually called me into his office and made some very kind and generous attempt to have me stay here. And I wonder why, because he was about to let me go and suffer on TV on someone else's dime. But my career has existed and has been forged on the backs of a whole lot of people who saw potential. In fact, all the way back to elementary school, that was what my report card said. And it was people who said, there's something here. It's very rough and needs some carving and chiseling, but there's something there. And, you know, a lot of it really was luck. A lot of it was being in the right place at the right time, or courting disaster, as I like to say it. So I managed to muddle on through my career with a bunch of people who thought there was something interesting about it. I'd get into a room, I'd always get the job offer in the interview, because they said, well, this guy comes in and he fills the room and he's exciting. And then by the time the contract's signed, my first day on TV, they're saying, whoa, what happened? So I muddle along and I end up at CNN. In fact, it was the week of September 11th. I arrived on September 7th, 2001 in New York. I'd been on this world tour because I wanted to travel a little before I started the job, knowing that I wouldn't be able to do that for a while. And I show up in New York on September 7th. All of my stuff is moved. I'm in New York proper, and there was a problem with my visa, because when you actually go to work in the US, you have to have a working visa, and mine wasn't in order, so they said, you got to go back to Toronto. So I'm in Toronto. And at 8:45 a.m. on September 11th, my visa was stamped in Vermont. And then, of course, everything shuts down, so I can't get there. I don't have a car. I don't have anything. You can't rent a car in Toronto. There are no planes flying. So on September 11th, September 12th, CNN's calling. They want all hands on deck. And I said, I can't get there. So we made some kind of deal that if I could get to Niagara Falls by midnight, the guy on duty would let me through on the word of his supervisors. In other words, no paper, no visa, nothing. And all I had in my garage was my motorcycle, which I wasn't planning on taking to New York. So I got on my motorcycle, rode to Niagara Falls, got my visa, rode into New York. That's how I started. CNN thinks I'm a real company man. And then I muddled my way through the next few years, really being more lucky than smart. So Enron, I've been covering that story the whole time, and all of a sudden this verdict it's ready to happen, and it's 3 days before Memorial Day, and CNN doesn't want to spend any more money on this story. It's getting boring. It's been going on for a few years, and it's in Houston, and I said, guys, we have to be there. And they said, no, we've got the affiliates there. They'll cover it for us. And I said, when that verdict comes out, there's no affiliate reporter who's going to be available to CNN because this is a huge Houston story. They're going to be doing their news. So I cajole them into sending a truck and spending lots of money and sending producers and cameras. I said, it's Memorial Day. The jury's not going to sit through Memorial Day. It's going to be done. So I go down there, and I'm there for a day and nothing happens, and I'm there for another day and nothing happens. So I finally said, all right, everybody at CNN's calling me, you money waster and jerk. So I decided to go out for a big night with my staff saying, all right, let's go back tomorrow. This isn't going to happen. Because we weren't going to stay for all through Memorial Day. And boy, did we go on a bender. So the next morning, I'm rubbing my eyes, looking for a bagel and a coffee, and we're sitting around, and I think every journalist in the place was feeling the same way. We'd all been out too late thinking, boy, this is going to be long. And then all of a sudden, somewhere, I see some guy running, blurry-eyed, and I ask my producer, what's going on? And all of a sudden, it starts rippling through that there's a verdict, and we happen to be there, and I'm the guy who saved the day for CNN. Then 2005, Hurricane Katrina's coming. Oil prices are going up, $70 a barrel, which is, by the way, where they are today. And CNN said, we always talk about how oil prices go up in when there's a storm coming. Why don't you actually explain to people why that happens? And I said, how do you mean? And they said, go and explain how a rig shuts down. And I said, at $70 a barrel, I'm going to go find some company who's going to just voluntarily shut down their rig so that you can see how that works. And they said, yes. So I found somebody. And we go down to Houston. It's the Friday before Hurricane Katrina hits. We drive out, we fly somewhere, and then we're at a port where all the helicopters go out to the rigs. We get on a helicopter. It's Friday morning. Helicopter takes 2.5 hours. It's very far out, the rig that we were going to. And by the time we land, we find out that Katrina has changed course and is headed right toward us. So, boy, did I ever score, because we had this brand new satellite equipment, and that little thing, the drill I wanted them to do was now a real evacuation. Got horseshoes coming out of my ass.
When we come back.
Hurricanes are a pain, I gotta tell you. They're really cool when they're happening, and then they don't take you out. Like, then you gotta stay there for days, and everything is wet. Everything you own is wet. There's no power, there's no flush toilet.
Get the latest Idealist news, presenter information, and watch streaming video at www.ideacityonline.com. Ideacity, the smartest people, the biggest ideas.
Last August, my bureau chief sits with me and says, we got big storms coming into the south again. You've got hurricane experience. Why don't you go down to see what's going on? And I said, honestly, this isn't being taped, is it? I said, I'm going to go. He said, why do you want me to go down? He said, go and explain the oil story. I said, blah, 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 oil story. The hurricane's going to come. It's going to be Anderson, 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 Anderson. Back to you, Anderson. I said, I'm not going to get on TV. Like, it's a waste of my time. And it was the Democratic convention had just wrapped up. The Republican convention was underway. There were like 3 people left at CNN who could actually, that was the real reason. Everybody was at the conventions. The people who had been at the Democratic convention needed a break. They sent fresh crews to the Republican convention, and Velshi wasn't doing anything, so why don't you send them to the hurricane? So I go to a place, I said, all right, fine, you know what? I'm not gonna do any work, so I'm gonna just have some fun. So we went to a place called Grand Isle, Louisiana, which is like the Hamptons of Louisiana back in the day, but now it's just a fishing place. It's out in the ocean. Again, we're there, and we're staying with a guy who has a shrimping business, and he's tired of his house getting destroyed, so he built this house that could withstand a Category 5 hurricane, and he is not leaving. The entire town has left. The police have left. The fire department has left under the guise of being with their people so that they can help get them back into town and clear the roads and all that kind of stuff. Everybody is gone, but Mr. Shrimper, my crew of 4, and the deputy fire captain, who's a Navy SEAL, felt bad. He said, look, I can't leave you guys behind. You're going to die. So I'll stay with you. So bottom line is the storm wasn't headed anywhere to us until 4 o'clock on Sunday evening when the forecast changed. And once again, it's headed right to us. And nobody thought the storm was heading here because only I know what a magnet I am for disaster. So I'm here. No other network has anybody anywhere close. And Fox is reporting, we're waiting for the next report from Grand Isle. From who? I'm the only guy on the island. Like, you getting your reports from CNN now? Ultimately, the storm hit 10 miles from where we were, so we were right in the eye of the storm once again, and it was the only story out there. So if I finally go back, this is the end of August, I go back to New York, and hurricanes are a pain, I gotta tell you. They're really cool when they're happening, and then they don't take you out. Like, then you gotta stay there for days, and everything is wet. Everything you own is wet. There's no power, there's no flush toilets, because you know, I always wanted one of those flush toilets like the airplane. You know, when you flush it, it's like whoosh. They're electric. So when the power goes out, your toilet doesn't work. And you can't put the thing in that, you can't fill it. You just keep filling water into the tank and it just disappears. I don't know what it is, but you don't want those in a hurricane. But yeah, you're just uncomfortable and wet and there's no power and it's terrible. So I really thought I was done. And then they said this Hurricane Ike is coming and it's going for Baytown, Texas, which is the biggest refinery area in America. And I just told my boss, I said, honestly, what did I do to deserve? I'm a business guy. What's with the hurricanes? So I go back down. And I'm in Baytown, I'm getting blown around, the whole story's going on. So now this is September 7th or something like this. Now we've had these 2 major hurricanes, doesn't look like there are any more coming. And I go back thinking, all right, I've worked 3 weekends in a row, I am gonna relax. And then September 15th, Lehman Brothers failed, and I didn't get another vacation. In fact, you know, whenever anybody asks me who's to blame for this recession, I have this really conciliatory view that it's the consumer and it's regulations and it's greed and it was fraud and it was, you know, kind of everybody. I'd like to find out who's to blame because they've been screwing with my vacation for a year. So here we are in June. This thing's been going on really since the middle of 2007. The recession really started, the economy started to slow down. We spent the back half of 2007, the first half of 2008 with a government in the United States that was in remarkable denial about what was going on. And it was ironic because I just finished with the hurricanes and I was reading this book while Hurricane Ike was coming in. Gustav was just crazy. I mean, I thought I was gonna die, but by Ike, I was an old veteran 2 weeks later. And so I was reading this book called Isaac's Storm by Eric Larson. He's the guy who wrote Devil in a White City. Great book. Devil in a White City was about the Chicago World Fair. Isaac's Storm was about the hurricane that hit Galveston in 1900. Now, I was in Baytown, which is across the bay from Galveston. Anderson was in Galveston. Because they were getting their trajectories better. They were figuring out, let's send Anderson to where the storm's actually going to hit. So he was across the bay. I wasn't getting it as badly as they were. But in 1900, the big storm, this was the biggest storm since 1900 to hit Galveston. In 1900, I don't know, I can't remember the number, 6,000 or 9,000 people died when that storm hit Galveston. In 2008, 1 person died because they went to watch the hurricane come in at the beach. The difference is that in 1900, the US Postal Service was responsible for forecasting hurricanes. And they used to forecast hurricanes and then they wouldn't be as bad. People would leave and all that and then they'd close their businesses and the hurricane wouldn't be that bad, so people stopped trusting them. So the Postal Service said, let's not raise the flag if it's not necessary. The Cuban government had a very sophisticated hurricane watch system and they kept saying, really, really big hurricane headed your way. And the Americans said, no, it's not really that big. And Cuba says, we just got hit by it. It's really big and it's coming your way. And ultimately, the lack of sophistication in forecasting cost several thousand people their lives. Because simply, if we had known, people don't die in hurricanes the way they used to when you can forecast them. Again, Katrina was a crazy hurricane. It was supposed to hit the east coast of Florida. And 3 days later, it was in New Orleans. I mean, that was quite a shift and a very powerful, fast-moving slow-moving hurricane, which grew in strength. But the bottom line is, I was just thinking about the irony of it, that people don't die in hurricanes because we forecast them. And you tell people to board up their homes and pack up their stuff and leave and then come back and repair. If we hadn't had a government in denial in 2007 and 2008 about the recession, people could have boarded up their portfolios and their homes and their jobs, and they could have realized to save more. They could have realized a big storm was coming. But when the president was out there, and Henry Paulson was out there, and Ben Bernanke was out there saying the economy is fundamentally strong, and we were yelling on CNN, and I'm proud of this. We were out there saying the American economy, more so than any other Western economy, is based on the strength of the consumer. And when the consumer weakens, as they started to, as soon as home prices started to come down or peaked at the end of 2007, September of 2007, the consumer stopped spending. Stock market peaked, started coming down. The consumer started to feel weak. There are only three things that make you feel prosperous from a financial perspective, and that is the value of your home increasing, the value of your savings for retirement increasing, or the value of your wage increasing. And those three things stopped happening.
When we come back,
we are a fully integrated world economy now. Canada gets hit like everybody else gets hit. Commodity prices are high, oil prices are high. That will help Canada. But the bottom line is when America is weak and the rest of the world is weak, you get it in the teeth for being a fully integrated economy.
great ideas are meant to be shared. Join the discussion on Facebook. Idea City, the smartest people, the biggest ideas.
There are only three things that make you feel prosperous from a financial perspective, and that is the value of your home increasing, the value of your savings for retirement increasing, or the value of your wage increasing. And those three things stopped happening, and the consumer slowed down. Fundamentally, that meant the economy was weakening. So to actually have senior government officials coming out saying the economy is fundamentally strong, the government doesn't want to talk down an economy, but it didn't allow people to prepare. That was like Galveston in 1900 versus Galveston in 2008. We live in a sophisticated environment where we know when things are going to happen. It would be easier if we weakened the economy a little bit because we caused people to spend a little bit less money and they saved themselves than the situation we're in right now, where people are very frightened to save money because they don't know what's coming next. And that's where we are right now. And you know, while the US government was in denial for a little while, I come back here all the time, and I had Canadians telling me, it's not gonna be a problem for us. We got a strong banking system, we got commodity prices, oil prices are high, the dollar was starting to lower a little bit, so you know, you were getting business back from America. That's not the case. We are a fully integrated world economy now. Canada gets hit like everybody else gets hit. Commodity prices are high, oil prices are high, that will help Canada. But the bottom line is when America is weak and the rest of the world is weak, you get it in the teeth for being a fully integrated economy because people can't buy stuff. I think we're toward the end of this now. I think this recession ends probably in the next few months, but it's not like a light switch. It's like one of those compact fluorescents. It doesn't go on immediately. As I said, those three things have to happen. You've got to be, one of the three things have to happen. Your stocks have to be going up, your wage has to be going up, and your home price has to be going up. Canada's done very well on the home price side of things, particularly because of a stronger banking sector that didn't expose itself to subprime mortgages. And certainly, we're not a culture in Canada that encourages remarkable debt on the home price side of things. We're actually a little more sophisticated on the retirement side because they advertise and people sign up for their RRSPs. But the jobs question is very urgent and very serious, and that's got to be the #1 priority for the US government and the Canadian government, particularly with the auto sector. Less so in Canada, but in the United States, the middle class was built on the basis of a manufacturing industrial sector, and the auto sector was, for much of the 20th century, at the middle of that, and that is gone. That will never be the same as it was. Now, what it'll do, it'll spread out to innovation like we saw with Zen and other smaller companies like Magna, new technologies, but we won't ever sell 16 million cars plus like we did in 2007. That's just not gonna happen again. But Brazil needs cars, and India needs cars, and China needs cars, and frankly, I think the Uno is a fantastic idea as a motorcycle rider. That's the kind of idea and technology that is born out of a recession that we're going to see more of. So I think that we're past the crisis stage, and we're past the fear stage, and now we're into the stage where people are saying, if this thing is coming to an end, and maybe it takes a year, what is the career that I need to be in? What is the training that I need to have? What should I tell my child who's a student about the kind of careers they should have? Remember that transportation is still strong, energy is still strong, alternative energy is really going to be the ticket to the future. The President of the United States understands that, Moses understands that, you understand that very clearly, but this is the kind of forum and the kind of discussion that needs to happen everywhere, and they do happen in other places, but not in a sophisticated and mature a fashion as they happen here. But this is where you have to be to address the problems, to find out where the investment opportunities are, and to push ahead, because some of the best things in life happen out of a recession. A recession is like a truck running over you. Don't be lying down when the truck backs into the garage. Get out and make some money, figure out how to make it a better world, and we can actually learn how to spend less and yet contribute more for the economy. You know, not be as inefficient as we were, be better to the earth, and it can be a very, very exciting time for the next 10 or 15 years, and you guys have front seat to it. So thanks very much for your time.
This is an environment that is ripe for people to actually want to know what's going on. I mean, I think right now everybody wants to know what's going on, but to actually come into a place that's been primed for a discussion about where the economy might be going because everybody's perked up to listen to it, it's pretty exciting for me because I spend most of my time talking to a camera.
In this episode of Idea City.
And I feel quite fortunate that I'm one of a handful of believers around the world in the department store business and trying to bring it back to life.
When Bonnie Brooks was first appointed as the surprise new president of the venerable Hudson's Bay Company, the headlines asked, "She's smart, she's fearless, she's charismatic. But will that be enough to revive Canada's oldest company?" Well, it's a few years later, and by bravely moving the chain upscale and putting an emphasis on fashion at exactly the time of the worst recession since the Great Depression, Bonnie appears to actually have put it off. She appears to have actually put some romance back into retailing at the Bay. So, Bonnie, many have tried before you, but to you alone goes the prize. Bonnie Brooks.
Thank you. Thank you, sweetie. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, my goodness. Thank you for inviting me here today. I feel so completely different from all the rest of the speakers. Mine is not nearly the same kind of story. My story is probably a different kind of bravery. But my journey is no less one of passion, just a slightly different kind of passion. I'm a retailer. I've been a retailer for more than 35 years. I did take a little side trip into publishing for a little while when I was the editor of Flair. But I've always had a passion for style and for creativity. And I've had a lot of fun bringing that to various retailers around the world. So it's funny Moses would mention that, but actually when the announcement was made that I was coming back from Hong Kong to take this role at the Bay, the Globe ran a story, and I read the comments underneath the story. I was still in Hong Kong, and one of the comments was, "Good luck, Miss Brooks, you're going to need it." So I will say that luck has been something that I've believed in, like we heard this morning from Ms. Chopra, the intent and the imagination can do great things when you really think that luck is on your side, and luck has been on my side quite a lot, I must say. So I'm a retailer, and I love the magic of retailing and inventing things. And for me, it's retail's not about buying and selling. It's about taking ideas that come from all kinds of different places and turning them into reality, and turning ideas into excitement, and exciting people into coming in, not bringing people in with sale events and things like that. So I'm a very non-traditional kind of retailer to be taking on Canada's oldest department store. I thought I'd talk a little bit about the business and the history, because the Hudson's Bay Company is actually one of the oldest companies in the world, if not the oldest company in the world. There's one other company that claims that to be the oldest, and it's actually the Royal Dutch Shell Company. It changed its name, however, from the East India Trading Company. So actually it doesn't really qualify, because our company is the oldest company in the world under the same name, continually. So it all started in 1670 with the brilliant King Charles II of England, who granted the charter to the Governor and Company of Adventurers of England trading into Hudson's Bay. That charter was for all the rights, for all of the land draining into the Hudson's Bay, which at that time was 1/12 of the world's land. What a great history. Amazing company. That is the actual charter, and the charter, for any of you who have not seen it, well, some of you may have seen it, it has traveled in various museums around the world, but the charter is in our offices and is locked up every night in a big, beautiful glass box, and it actually has the value of the Magna Carta, basically priceless. The company has its own coat of arms, and this was created in the 1600s. And it was created by people who were sort of dreaming about what these animals looked like, and they were living in England, but they didn't really know what beavers and elks and things were. So we've got some really outrageous kinds of heraldic imagery in our archives. The 1800s, and this is when people were all heading to the Klondike, and we were the absolute store that you could go to and be completely outfitted for gold digging. This was one of our first stores. It was a fort. This is a fort at Fort Langley. A beautiful, beautiful photograph of this old fort. We persevered all through the 1800s. We built beautiful stores across Canada, 7 of which we still own and operate. Incredible architecture. This was for the Queen's coronation when she was in Canada. Over the years, we were purveyors of food. This is one of the food halls of the Bay, and many, many other products. This is all out of the archives. But actually, in the late 20th century, department stores were really beginning to become dinosaurs. And I feel quite fortunate that I'm one of a handful of believers around the world in the department store business and trying to bring it back to life. This company all started with the blanket. This is called a point blanket. This was the first currency of Canada. This blanket was traded for pelts and really was our original currency. And if you can see the little stripes on the side, those are the points of the point blanket. And the number of points indicated how many pelts you needed to trade that blanket. This is Gene Tierney in the 40s in a poster of a movie called Hudson's Bay. And these are the stripes today. And what I really wanted to talk about today was collaboration. I've always believed in relationships, and I've built relationships with many people around the world who have really helped greatly in making changes in department stores with me. And the idea came to us last year to ask designers around the world who were Canadian to take the blanket and make it into something new and fresh. And this one is from the Smythe girls, who sell in Bergdorf's and in Barney's, and made this beautiful jacket for us. It also appeared on the cover of Fashion Magazine. And it's through collaborations like this that we're really reaching out to Canadians to say, you know, help us embrace this wonderful company and engage with us in its reinvention. The stripes are no real, you know, they've been on many covers of many incredible magazines, but this is the one that when I found it in the archives I like the best, because it's the design issue of Architectural Digest, and you can see that the stripes were very much alive on the bed up in the left-hand corner, and have been truly iconic throughout time. We built a little log cabin in the Vancouver store with our friends Yabu Pushelberg. So we call this the Modern Log Cabin, and had this out in Vancouver in the big superstore when we were the headquarters for the Olympics in Vancouver this past winter. I was going to talk a little bit about the Olympics, but that's another whole subject unto itself, but certainly was one that was great for the company because it helped act as a catalyst to make some change within the company that really needed to be made. And we were so fortunate that to be part of something that ended, you know, that was an amazing experience of being a catalyst for the whole country in terms of what the Olympics did for Canada this past February. A canoe that we had designed by one of the country's most important canoe makers, actually in Peterborough, and this is a cedar strip, beautifully constructed canoe with The original canvas that was used back in the 1700s actually applied to it, and we did that one in the beautiful stripes. And these are two fun paddles, and actually it's one paddle, two sides, and on one side it says up the creek, and on the other it says with a paddle. So we're having a little bit of fun and irreverence with our stripes and our Canadian heritage. This article was quite interesting because I don't think we've been on the cover of a magazine in this way for quite some time, and it says Glamour Style Profit the Bay. So this ran after we decided to take a very bold move and start at the top of the company and start actually at the top of the fashion pyramid. So a bit of a bold and brave move for the company. And again, we engaged Canadians to help us on this journey. And so we started with the Room. We knew that the Room had some history, actually had been started in the 30s, and was one of the first to bring designer fashion from Europe into Canada. But it had become quite a small, insignificant area in the store, very dusty, and I admire the people who actually found their way to the Room all through the past few decades, who found the things in there, because by the time I joined the company and saw the Room, it really was not what one would say would be impressive. And we asked Yabu Pushelberg to help us design this. It's won many, many awards, but it was really to take the company on a fashion journey that it had not been on for many years. We brought in 60 new designers into this area in a period of about 7 months. So we were out on the road constantly, convincing people to help us out with this new journey for the Hudson's Bay Company. And it's been incredibly successful. It's a very loft-like space on the 3rd floor of one of the iconic buildings at Queen and Yonge Street. And we made, we wanted it to feel the vibe of what's going on in that area. An amazing area full of loft spaces. So we took this big, beautiful space and took it right back to the windows. It really is a gorgeous space. And all the artwork is by Canadian designers, and that's out of coat hangers, of course, because of the business we're in, that beautiful piece of hanging art in the center. So it's lots of fun. And we also engaged some other Canadians to help us out with this project. We certainly wouldn't have the budget normally to hire someone like Daria Warbury. I'm sure you know who she is. She's a supermodel of the world at the moment. She is Canadian, lives all over the world, and helped us out by being the face of the Room for a campaign we ran in full pages right across Canada. And when I showed this to Azzedine Alaia personally a couple of months ago, he said it was one of the best campaigns he's ever seen. That made all of us very, very, very proud. And I think that is really my story, is that we're proud to be able to engage with Canadians, and there are a lot of people who are rooting for our success in the industry. So it's really a real pleasure, and I'm very proud to have this role, to be at the Bay at this time in its life. And we also call on our friends in the media to help us out, and I'm going to play a little video that Jeannie created for us.
The Room was actually the first import of high fashion labels to Canada.
I'm so honored to be in this room. There isn't an ugly garment in the place. It makes you want to shop. They raised the bar.
Fabulous dress. Where'd you find that dress?
I found it at the Bay.
Would you have ever thought that you'd be able to find Hervé Leger today? And now you can. It's great.
Why is it important for you to be involved with a company like the Bay?
Well, I think, you know, first and foremost, it's one of the oldest companies in, I think it's North America. I grew up going to the Bay, and I think it's important for me to support Canadians and support a Canadian company.
That's nice there. People have such a fondness for the room. Like, people have their memories. I mean, there's such a generational feel to the room. The room always supported young designers. I mean, we were the first store to support Givenchy in Canada, and I think that's important for us to continue bringing in new faces. People like Erdem. This was look number 2 on his spring runway. Well, this is obviously from the Proenza Schouler runway collection for spring. And I just look at the textures and the colors on here, and I mean, this collection was so extraordinary.
We're obviously all pretty wowed by the room. It's quite a gorgeous place, and to now have your face associated with it to this degree, how does that make you feel?
I'm proud of them. You know, I think it's great for Toronto and for Canada to be kind of stepping into a world of fashion that was never there before.
The Hudson's Bay Company is a company that became a nation. And I think that's a wonderful, you know, sort of legacy to have. And again, I'm thrilled to be at the helm of this company at this very brief moment in its 340-year history. And you know, my time there will be like a little speck on the history of the company. But it will be fun, and we're having a great time. And I'd like to invite all of you in this room, who I'm sure have amazing ideas, to help us out, to help us on this journey, and to share your ideas with us. Thank you.
I want to say something that I've said in the past, though not that recently. There's a peculiar thing that happens when we're giving these kinds of talks. When artists are involved, the audience is generally enthralled to hear about their work, whether it's, you know, whatever medium they're working in. But when business is involved, it's dealt with considerable suspicion. And I've always insisted that there are people who are artists of business, and I think you're one of them.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
So,
my goodness.
thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Embrace ideas and engage other people to help you execute them. Moses, this is a wonderful invention, a great idea, and you're a brilliant genius.
Ideacity is a place where ideas come face to face to inspire and give us hope. At this time our planet needs it most. Ideacity is a place.
Everybody sing.
Where ideas